Hi, and welcome to the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. I'm Dupe Witherick, alcohol free wellbeing and transformational coach, and the best selling author of A Cocktail of Clarity, How to Ditch Drinking, Embody a Joyful New Identity, and Thrive Alcohol Free. This podcast will show you that being alcohol-free is not what the traditional narrative says. And even though alcohol is so ingrained in our society that it is okay to give yourself permission to stop drinking if you want to. And you do not have to wait until you hit rock bottom. It is certainly not boring, and I believe ditching drinking is just the start to living an extraordinary life. By getting rid of this one thing, it allows the doors to open to endless possibilities and opportunities. Each week, we will have guests on who are at various stages of the alcohol-free journey, from those who are curious to those who have been alcohol-free for years. We will also have experts on talking about different topics relating to alcohol and beyond. Through these conversations, you will discover what it means to thrive alcohol-free. Enjoy. So welcome, Rebecca, to the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. I'm so pleased you're here, and I'm delighted. We met in France in person, which was amazing, and I just love your energy and your story and everything about you. So I'm delighted that you're here on the podcast. I'm glad that I can share you with the listeners. So maybe why don't we start? How are you, Rebecca? You doing okay?
Thank you for having me, Dupe. I am really doing well. And likewise, in your space, the energy just always comes through too. So I feel really great to be here with you and to be able to speak to, the important work and messages that we have. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So maybe for people that might not know you, why don't you just do a brief introduction and we'll go from there.
Okay, well, I am Rebecca Guevara Wingler. And I know that's a lot and a mouthful, but I do go through my all three names. And the name that I work under, my brand, is Curious on Life. And we'll talk about all of that. But I know that we're going to speak a bit about not just the work that we do now or that I do, but also the piece that even brings us together, and that's the alcohol-free journey. And so a little bit about me. I just celebrated my 66th birthday, and yeah, and it's incredible at this stage in life because who would even think the things that are happening in my 60s? It just seems insane. But what's amazing about it is just the message out there for any, especially women who I typically work for, but anyone, well into midlife, you think one thing, and then, once you start really digging deep, so many doors can open. So that's that. I am married and have been married to my husband, Michael, for 39 years. It's a very long
Wow,
time.
congratulations.
Thank you. And, just like anything, that whole journey is just full of twists and turns and and then especially for me, the last 5 years was I actually questioned my relationship with alcohol at 60. And that's when everything changed for me. And we'll talk more about that. I have two children, and they have families of their own, and three grandchildren. And I am thrilled that my grandchildren will never see their grandmother tipsy, drunk, or, you know, just having too much to drink at any family function or whatnot. And that just brings me such joy as well. And that I can talk to them openly about what I do. And one of them is a teenager, so she's like really great to talk to about it. She's going to be 15 actually. And then the others are 10 and 7, so they're just, that's not in their world yet. But what else can I tell you? We have two dogs, and I'm in the process of moving. So one thing about me, Dupe, is I'm a gypsy spirit. I'm always up and going. So I think you're a little bit that way too. And so, yeah, and so that's what's happening in my world at this present time. Busy.
How exciting, how exciting. And yeah, we'll get into your work, the amazing work you're doing as well. But gosh, 39 years married is a huge feat.
That's a whole other
Congratulations.
podcast.
I know, that's amazing. It's amazing. I do love hearing when people have been married for that long. It's so inspiring.
Thank you. It does seem a little surreal when, because those years just, as you know, I mean, the time just flies. But so a little bit about my journey. Would you like for me to start first about like why I do what I do and how?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'd love to maybe start off with your alcohol journey. And obviously you said you started questioning it at 60.
Hey, yes, yes.
And so maybe if we could talk a bit about that and what led you to actually decide, when most people would consider a bit later on in life, really, they'll probably think, well, a lot of people think, what's the point? And you're so set in your ways and don't think you can change. And,
I
people in
thought
their
that.
30s and 40s think that. And, I know people in their 50s and 60s have sort of struggled with the idea of potentially doing, because it becomes your identity, doesn't it? It becomes part of
Abs-
you. And so I'd love to hear a bit about the journey to that and what eventually made you say, right, enough's enough and I'm ready to change.
Okay, sure. And because, there's a lot of decades involved there, so I will try to keep it straight chronologically. But, I started drinking very young. It was all out of, that curious, I have that nature, that spirit. And I didn't grow up in a home where there was alcohol. So that's kind of an interesting fact for me. My parents, either one of them weren't drinkers, and we just never had alcohol in the home. And I grew up not overly religious, but we went to church every Sunday, and it's a Hispanic, Latin, Mexican American family, and so church was a big part of it, and a lot of family and friends, and all the time there was a lot of that. I did have some relatives. I remember being at certain, Christmas or weddings or things like that, and I would see alcohol, but it just wasn't part of my life as a young child, and where different people have different experiences with that. But when I was in junior high school, and I grew up in Los Angeles, in Southern California, in the 70s, early 70s, junior high school. It was I look back at it now and I feel like it was a very free spirited, liberal time, at least in where I grew up. Um, we had a lot of freedom actually in the public school system. We could come and go as we wanted to in high school, even as young as 14, without really needing parental permission to do so. So that's a whole other thing of what we would do with that free time. But going back to my very first experience, I was invited to a slumber party. And I think I was in seventh grade, so I was but maybe 12 or 13. And I really wanted to go. And you're at that age where you want to be, fun and with the popular kids and, all that kind of stuff. And I had an older sibling and some older cousins that were around me at that age as well. So they may have been 16, 17 when I was 12, 13. And so some of those influences were kind of coming in. I would hear them talk about it a little bit, and or experiencing, with drinking or maybe some other substances. And so I was curious, and I remember wanting to go to this slumber party, and my mom was kind of strict about that kind of stuff, but she finally said I could go. She knew the friends, and there was about 8 or 9 of us, I say now, little girls. And somewhere, and of course there were older siblings. I remember that during the night, early in the night, a 6-pack of beer showed up at this party. And it was, everybody was like, ooh, there's beer, who wants to try it? And I remember thinking, I wanted to try this. And so I did. And what I remember about that was that kind of that feeling that comes over you where you're kind of warm and fuzzy. And I remember feeling anything that I was maybe insecure about or anxious about. I remember that kind of disappearing and kind of liking that feeling. But, drinking the whole can of beer, and of course, our bodies aren't meant ever to really have poison come in. But I say, especially when you're 12 or 13, I mean, your little girl bodies are not going to know how to, they have to process this poison. And I just remember, Dubé, I don't remember if I drank the whole can, perhaps I did, but I remember the room spinning. I remember being very sick. I remember crawling on my hands and knees to the toilet. And I have these flashbacks of that, and even now, today. And that's about what I remember about that night. And then, of course, the next morning, my mom came to pick us up, me, because I had another cousin with me, and of course to go to church early Sunday morning. And I didn't know what a hangover was, but that is definitely what I was experiencing, just so sick. And of course, not wanting, the adults to know that anything was wrong. And so that was my very first memory. And, you would think that that experience would say, oh, I'll never want to try that again. But let's fast forward a few years in high school and parties. And then I was part of, cheerleading or pep squad. And so football games, basketball games, dances, this and that. And alcohol was always around. It was just always available. And I always partook. And I think I just enjoyed then that feeling of well, you're numbing, so you're whatever at that stage in life I was feeling uncomfortable about, it would kind of numb that, of course. And so looking back now, I think that was my draw to alcohol. And also, of course, that you kind of get the no inhibitions, the free spiritedness of it all. And, it's all just, you're under the influence of alcohol. So that was kind of, it never was an issue as far as like, school. I was able to graduate even early. And I guess I was always kind of a go-getter. So it never really like, fortunately or unfortunately, caused any major incident to make me really question partying or anything like that. And then as a young adult, I got married young. This is my second marriage, but I was very young in my first marriage. And alcohol was part of that because he was older than me and he could drink. I was still under 21. And so that's where I really more got to see a more scarier side of alcohol. It wasn't just going out and having fun or tying one over, having a bit too much, kind of laugh it off because everybody does that every now and then. I kind of saw how alcohol can influence people in a dark way. And so long story short there, that marriage didn't last but just a few years, but I had a son in that marriage. And even though the marriage dissolved, I continued drinking socially and working. I remember happy hours. I remember alcohol was part of everything, going out to dinner, business meeting, whatever it was, alcohol. And then I was also always a creator and dabbled, art was always a big part of my life. But when I was a young adult, I couldn't make much money as a, starving artist, as they say, there's a reason for that. So I always worked also, but art was just always my passion. It was where I felt that I could express and feel safe and free and no one could say that's right or wrong. That was kind of, I looking back now, I see that that's what was happening with me. But back to the early adulthood ages, like the 20s and 30s, raising young children, Alcohol was not part of a daily thing I did at that point. I think looking back now, it was more going when we would go out, or I think I also, when I did drink, it was like binge drinking. I was never happy with one, glass of wine or one cocktail. I always wanted more. Um, I always felt I was way in control, and I always never saw myself as a problem drinker. I felt like I drank like everybody else, and of course, I surrounded myself with people that also probably felt the very same way. And so that would have been those ages, raising children, busy with work, busy with all the things that parenthood brings, all the challenges, relationship challenges, work challenges, just everything that life hits us with. And deep disappointments in life and hurts and all of just things that are part of life. But I never learned or understood the importance of feeling those feelings, expressing them. I would shove them down. I didn't ever like confrontation. I just really recoiled from anything like that. So what the outcome of that was anything difficult, Rebecca would have a drink or two just to kind of numb the feeling. And so that worked for me for a long time. There were times that I drank too much where my husband would say, I think, last night you really, and I was always very defensive. And I didn't I felt like no one's gonna, this is my go-to. And if every now and then I drink too much, can everybody just kind of deal with that sort of thing? I think is what I was thinking. And so, it would just years went on this way. When we became empty nesters, because the kids were up and out, we moved from California to Texas, and we were empty nesters, like I said, and I think I had a little bit of a spirit of, I don't have kids that I have to worry about that maybe mom just had one too many, and now if I want to, I can. And so I got very involved with the wine pairing culture and, enjoyed all of that. And I probably enjoyed the wine more than the actual pairing of wine, but I went along with what it is to do so that we can socially and it be accepted that we're maybe having a lot of wine with our dinner. And I became a red wine drinker in my late 40s and throughout my 50s. And I identified as a red wine drinker, and it was part of who I was. And I wanted everyone else around me to be enjoying it as much as me. So I was always the one, pouring another round. And yeah, I look at it now. This is when wine became a daily part of my life. So I would open up a bottle at around the 5 o'clock hour, whether it was to go out or begin cooking at home. And of course, I had to have a drink while I was cooking. And then another glass at dinner or two at dinner. So now, we're well into probably 3/4 of the bottle. And then, yes, during COVID was in 2020. We weren't going anywhere. So then if we were up, Netflix or whatever, well now, that bottle's gone. So let's open up another maybe. And this was me. My husband drank alcohol, but it was never, he was the type that could have a beer. or could have, it wasn't like, let's have another and another and another. And so for me, the COVID period, I was drinking, a minimum of a bottle of wine and then some every single evening. And I had been doing that already before the lockdown, probably for about 2 years. So I would say that between 57 and 60 years of age, I was drinking a lot and every day. And it was becoming more problematic because I knew I was drinking like an amount that was no longer healthy, as if any of it's healthy for you. But, I always would look for the articles that talked about how red wine had antioxidants, therefore that's the right one to drink for you. And so, okay, I'm drinking the right alcohol. It's not like to say we can get antioxidants from drinking cherry juice or, something else, but no. And we were going to be drinking any alcohol, let's drink the healthy alcohol. The stories we tell ourselves. So I went with that for a long time. But then I remember, my father was towards the end of it was the last few years of, now he was slowly diminishing, and I was helping my mom kind of go through that. And every night I would stop to get a bottle of wine to come home after we would be visiting with him in the hospital or where he was. And then I remember I started getting the bottle, even though we had wine at home, but I just knew I wanted to have my own bottle. But then I started buying those little boxes. They have the big boxes of red wine, but the little one, I thought, I need to drink this before I go in the house so that it'll appear that I'm opening up the bottle of wine, because I just got home and now I'm going to have my first glass of wine. But I knew that I needed a lot more wine. My tolerance level, after all these years, had been way high. I was never even really experiencing, a hangover anymore, because it was probably just kind of in me, from the day before, so much that I was probably always on that, you're never above 50%. You're just kind of every day getting through until you can open up that bottle again at 5, because I would look forward to that. And when I started drinking the other one first, or maybe I wouldn't finish the whole thing, but I think those have at least 3 glasses of wine in them. I don't know, minimum 2. These are the kinds of things that in the back of my mind, it was like, this is sneaky. What are you doing? Those types of conversations internally, the nudges, the voices. And I remember it got to a point. So let me go back to in 2020 for the lockdown. I was drinking quite a bit, every day, drinking quite a bit of wine. And I remember I must have been Googling, like we all do at some point. I was returning I was in a beautiful little town in Mexico, San Miguel de Allende. And I was with 2 other girlfriends, and we had gone for there was art there and some shows and stuff. And I had drank, we all did, quite a bit of wine. And when it was time to fly home, we all lived in different places. So I was on the flight and I was Googling. I must have been Googling, about how much is too much and this kind of stuff. And what popped up was a quote that said, would your life be happier if you weren't drinking as much? And what would it be like if alcohol was small and irrelevant in your life? And it was like, whoa. First of all, I've never really read anything with regard to alcohol that kind of was around that kind of a thought, and it stuck with me. And it was Annie Grace, and This Naked Mind. I'd never heard of her. I didn't know who this woman was. I knew nothing about any kind of methodology around alcohol, all of it. But it stuck with me. And so that was a few months before COVID. Then the lockdown, I didn't stop drinking, but it stuck with me. And when I was drinking very heavily during the first few months of COVID, I decided to do a break because I knew that there was like this 30-day break thing. And I thought, oh, let me, I think I could use a break, because what's interesting too, Dupe, is that in spite of all this wine I was drinking, I was always searching. I knew there was deeper purpose in life. It's like this two things were going on in my head. And I was always very interested in wellness, overall wellness, mind, body, spirit. So I loved reading, Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle, and these things were also all happening around the same time. I'm questioning how much I'm drinking. So I decided to do a 30-day break, and I thought this will just be great physically for me. I was doing Tai Chi and I loved it. It's great for balance, by the way. Anybody who's older and doesn't want to do strenuous exercise, Tai Chi is amazing. Okay, side little note on Tai Chi. And so I took a 30-day break through the program, and I wanted to be anonymous. I didn't want anyone to know who I was, what I was doing. I didn't even tell my husband. I told no one I was going to take a break. And it's that thing where I don't know if it was because I didn't trust myself, or I didn't want somebody's eyes watching me. It was, maybe I didn't believe it myself. Maybe I had tried stuff before, and, so all the reasons. So I did it, and I loved learning every day, and I aced it, and I felt great. My energy was back. I was creating again. And I thought, I've got this. I have no problem. I could quit whenever I want. I just did for 30 days. Yay, I can moderate. That was my whole purpose. I wanted to moderate. I did not see myself as somebody who would say she could take her or leave it. So I began my moderation journey that June, July, August. There was a devastation in my family. And I wasn't prepared or had the tools to know, I could take a break. But when life hit, I didn't have the tools to deal with such, right? So I started drinking again. And so from that August to that December of 2020, I drank very heavily. And it got dark, and it became like an entity, like it was alcohol versus me. And like it was, I've talked about this before, but I started to see alcohol as its own spirit and entity. And I know we call it spirits, and I think I know why now, but it was a force that was kind of baiting me or it. Come on, have more. It doesn't matter. You don't matter. You go down that dark hole. And and it still brings up emotion for me. But I also knew that there was another way, because I had been kind of reading and doing some of the work. So I decided to take another 30-day break that January. And just long story short, that was when I changed my relationship with alcohol, was that December. That was 2020. And so this December will be 5 years living this alcohol-free lifestyle, which is awesome. So yeah, so then there's the 5 years since that point. So that was my alcohol journey. So if you may have questions around that, because that's like 4 decades of, starting at so young at 13 all the way to 60, right?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. And I know that actually, it obviously brought up a lot of emotions for you as well. So I appreciate you being so vulnerable there and share. I think it's so important because all of us start off with this, oh, this is okay, it's fun, it's something we can do, we don't really think anything about it, especially as you said, people around you are all doing the same thing. So it's normal. There's no, you don't think you're not normal. Even the example you gave of your girls' weekend, where you said in Mexico, they all, the three of you were all drinking and then you all went off your separate ways. But that is just, it also shows the people we surround ourselves with, and they say, the 5 people we surround ourselves with are who we become. So it's important to choose our friends. But if that's all you know, if that's your model of reality, and that's what you see as being normal, that's absolutely
Right.
fine. And as you say, as you go on, your tolerance level grows. Alcohol becomes this thing that sneakily sort of just start to take over a little bit. And so many people take that break and think, yeah, I've got it. I've done it. I've done a
Mhm.
break. So of course I'm fine. Right. There's nothing wrong. I'll moderate. And actually the moderating sometimes ends up being worse. And it's
Yes,
so
taking up
easy to
so much noise in the head, right?
exactly. And people think moderating is just saying, right, I'm not going to drink on Mondays to Thursdays, and I'll only have a glass on a Friday or whatever, and have all these rules around it, and it's
Mm,
easy.
mm.
But then actually, when it comes down to it, can you keep those rules? And the majority of us can't, because life happens, as you said. And you mentioned the fact that you realized you didn't have the tools. So I'd love to hear what tools you have now that help you to cope when life isn't going the way you want it to go.
Well, I would have to say, and I had to learn, it's a process. And even the going alcohol free for anybody who's questioning their own relationship with alcohol. I talk about it and like poof, and now I'm alcohol free. And you and I both know that it is a lot of work. We do a lot of deep work to remain that way. And what's so beautiful about it is that it doesn't even become work. Like I don't ever even think about it anymore. I love identifying as a non-drinker, but the first few months or the moments where you're, first of all, questioning it, it's scary because it feels scary because that's all you've known, and you go through all the things of what are people going to think and why. Like people didn't think, I never had a rock bottom. There wasn't anything like that. Internally, of course, there was a lot of hell going on, but nobody sees that part. So people a lot of times are like, really? I didn't know you had a problem. Well, you don't have to have a problem per se that is an outward problem to know that for you, it's just not working anymore. And I think I've gone off. What was the question you just asked me?
The tools
Oh, the tools. Yes, so
that
important.
help you. Yeah.
So, what I mean by that is it's probably different for everyone. But for me, because I think, not because anybody in my family was cruel or mean or doing anything to be mean, but I think I was kind of brought up with don't make waves, don't say that, you're going to hurt somebody's feelings. Oh, you don't really feel like that when you're expressing that you feel a certain way. Oh, you don't really feel that way. Oh, it wasn't really that. But all these things, the messages, the conditioning from the time we're very young is to sometimes, unfortunately, stay small, don't make waves, not that anybody means this, but the message is kind of you don't matter. Your feelings aren't as important as, say, maybe the next person. So I think I grew up kind of subconsciously with that. And so whenever I did have a lot of emotion over something that one should obviously have a lot of emotion around and be able to express it, when you squash it, a tool, so this is where a tool comes in. I had to learn to voice it, to feel it, to sit with it, learn how to cry if it makes you cry. Like here, like I had tears here. I would have never, it's like, outside hard shell, inside mush. So learning that it's okay, you're human. And if you need help, ask for help. And it's okay to say, I'm not sure. And it's okay to say, I don't like that. And it's okay to say, that's not for me. And it's okay to say, I need space. And it's okay to say, that wasn't okay. You made me feel. Now, that doesn't mean you go around being, a bitch to everybody or you're entitled now. No, all it means is that you matter. Your feelings matter. So if you don't have the tools to express in positive ways other than maybe a substance or anger or gambling, or for some people, it's they're behaviors that really are destructive to the essence of our humanity. And so it's not even about judgment for me morally, drinking's bad. It's about what it does to us as a human being. And it's just lowering our vibrations and not allowing us to be our full potential. And I think when we learn tools, and there's all kinds of tools depending on whatever the issue is that you're dealing with. Number one, reach out to somebody. There's plenty of even free resources. Reach out to Dupe or I. But another tool for me that I now share with women, primarily women, that I also have had men participate, a tool for me, Dupe, has been creative expression. And so, yes, I've always been a painter, and before I started coaching and doing this type of work, I would have small little art shows in local galleries and things like that. Now, and I still love to paint and still do at times commissioned work and things, these types of pieces, but I've been mainly painting, expressing through watercolor where it's a gentle pause really for reflection and transformation, and I guide. It's not about being an artist and painting a painting. We're all going to paint the same thing. We're all going to express through a guided session, whatever it is that day. And it creates this gentle and powerful pause in life. And it unlocks light and it releases blocks and it helps us to reconnect. Now, painting in watercolor may not be for everybody. And, we all have different modalities and ways of healing, but I really love using art as medicine. I think it's such a beautiful medium. And for me, it's always was my safe space, even as a little girl. That was a place that I could go and zone, and whatever came out of me, and no one could say that was right or wrong, or that didn't feel like that, or it shouldn't be that color. And so this is what is allowed in this type of a tool of a watercolor session.
Yeah, that's incredible. And isn't it funny how people go back to things that they used to love doing as children or as young adults? And it's something I talk about a lot in terms of finding your passion is a really good thing to do when you stop drinking because it gives you something else. But a lot of people don't remember what their passions are. So I do suggest go back to childhood, go back to teenage, before you were drinking and say, what was it that really lit me up? And so I love the fact that you remembered that, and even though you've been doing it throughout your life anyway, but you really remembered it, I think, when you stopped drinking. Now you've incorporated it into your work and what you do, which is really special.
Thank you. Yeah, I enjoy it, and the participants seem to really enjoy it as well. You know, you leave lighter. Sometimes you're more connected with what it was.
Mm.
So it's really a great way to release and to let go. You know, we learn, one of the things I love about this medium is we really do learn to let go. Just watching color flow on canvas, and you know, and you see how it allows you to let go too, you know, as we watch it. It's very, you know, it's, you feel it in the body as well. I remember when I went back to painting in my 50s. I was with a group of other artists, and we would paint collectively, and we would drink a lot of wine. Um, what started happening is my creativity was just fading. And towards this latter part of that decade for me in my 50s, I didn't even really want to paint anymore. I realize now what was happening. The alcohol was numbing all my creative vibrations, all my God-given talents. It was making me stay just small, do nothing. So I was getting sad because I was no longer creating. I didn't put all that together at the time, but looking back now, this is what was happening. And so what a gift. First of all, getting curious about, am I drinking too much? Could I live a life like others seem to be living it, and they're thriving? Like, I love the name of your podcast and your work. And they're seeming not less, they're seeming more. There's more of them now. They have a beautiful energy and a light. I want some of that. I want that. How are they saying, yeah, I used to drink and now I don't drink? And guess what? You can do that too if that's what you want to do. And guess what? You can try it out. And guess what? You don't have to be perfect at it. And guess what? You can just ask yourself lots of questions. And guess what? You can start thinking about, how am I feeling now? How is it different? You get super curious about what's possible. And the other guess what is, you could always go back to drinking and just drink. But what, so I always had to tell myself, I'm never going to say never. That used to like depress me at the beginning. Now of course, it's like, I don't care. There it is. Of course I can have a drink if I want. I'm an adult. I can, of course. It's like, I don't very much like oysters on the half shell either. So why would I go and start backing those up just so I seem cool, or I seem part of the. And the truth of the matter is, people that love you, they don't care if you're drinking or not drinking. They probably prefer us not drinking anyway, because we're our real selves. We learn to bring ourselves forward. We learn that we are enough. We learn that we have value. We also learn that our past doesn't define us. And I think that's really beautiful too, because I never thought myself as a problem drinker, let alone an alcoholic. That word has never been in my vocabulary. I would have never accepted that term for myself. And I know that that has helped a lot of people, so I don't judge any program that helps anyone. I just know that for me, alcohol is a big liar. It promises way more than it will ever give you, and it's so destructive. And I think when we really remove the romance aspect out of alcohol and see it for what it really is, there's no going back. You can't unlearn. You can't unlearn what this liquid does.
It's so true. I think we give it so much credit at the time for helping us with confidence, helping us be social, helping us have less anxiety. We put it on a bit of a pedestal, and you're right, it just isn't worth it. And it's taking so much more than it's giving. And as you say, we numb out, we think we're numbing out all the negative emotions. We're numbing out things we don't want to handle, things we don't want to really think about, but we're also numbing all the positive as well, the joy, the creativity, the positive things, because actually we just don't, we're in this like merse phase. You're not really living. And I quote this a lot. I think people who listen to the podcast have heard this before, but with being in Marrakesh, Arabic for alcohol is alcohol, which is body eating spirit. And that's what it translates or, translates to. And it fascinates me because everything you've described is you can tell it was eating away at who you were and your spirit and the fact that you couldn't really do the art that you were loving to do. And it's just incredible to me that we think it's giving us so much when really it's just taking it away.
It's
And
just
so
taking away and keeping us
absolutely,
so small, right? It keeps us
yeah.
so small too.
Mm,
Um, and I think that well into midlife, I speak with and work with a lot of women in 60s, 70s, and even 80. Because, well, one thing that's really cool about it is I feel like women are just becoming more powerful with
yeah.
age. All that. That's a whole other thing too, Dupe, as I know
Mm,
the stories around aging. It's like
mm,
there's a lot of wisdom in that we have to offer. Um, and that kind of brings me to why I wanted to work on with a longer program. I do coaching and then these sessions. But I know I spoke to you a little bit about something I have coming up at the end of August. It is an 8-week program. Excuse me. Let me drink a little water. I've been talking.
go for it.
I'm calling this program Unfold, and it's an 8-week journey where the topics they build upon each other, and it's designed for us to every week have a topic that we are unfolding and getting to know ourselves on a very a little bit deeper every week. um, and of course we'll talk about where to find all that later, but they're like layers of watercolor, the topics you said: fluid, intuitive, deeply personal. And it's to help guide out of the fog and into our own brilliance. And so each week has a topic. And yeah, if you're interested, please reach out and, curious on life. And then the website has information about it too. But this work to the first domino for me, and I think for so many people, is the alcohol piece. If alcohol isn't an issue for you, fantastic. We have met so many people like us where they don't even like it anymore. You don't even know why you're doing it anymore. You're not even enjoying. I got to a point where honestly, I was walking down the aisle buying my last bottle of wine. I will never forget this. It was like I knew it was going to be the last bottle of wine. And I was literally, it sounds so weird. I was trying to decide, am I going to get the cab or am I going to get the Merlot or am I going to get and I would have this gag reflex, literally, like
Mm,
at the thought. It was this weird thing going on with me. It would like make me feel gaggy.
yeah.
Um, it felt like I was up to here in wine, and yet I was buying another bottle. Just how crazy those things. Um, never understanding how somebody could walk away from the table, and how people will leave a little bit of wine in their glass. Oh my gosh, I did not understand that at all. It took everything for me to say, "Can I finish? Can I finish?" I mean, when you think about how ridiculous this, ah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it definitely becomes a habit. And I had a similar experience with when I said I was going to take 21-day break, and it was the Sunday before the Monday, like 9th of November 2020 when I stopped. And on the 8th, I said, okay, well, as I'm going to take a 21-day break, and I hadn't actually drunk anything. I look back at it now, I hadn't drunk anything for about 3 or 4 days. And so I don't know why I felt the need, but I opened a bottle of champagne. I mean, why? Poured this glass, literally had a sip, and my stomach started churning. And I just felt like I definitely just need to let this go for 21. It was only going to be 21 days. It was never going to be forever. It was never going to be 5 years. That was never the thing. But I just felt like something was saying to me, yeah, maybe it's time to just explore this and see what happens. And I really had this thought that the truth will set me free. And it was a really strange thing because I was like, free from what? I've got a good life, I've got a good, family, a good job. What am I being set free from? I had no idea. And anyway, long story
I
short,
love
it's
that you
nearly
just
five
said
years.
that. Yeah, I love that you just said that little nudge or voice.
Mm,
I say to anyone, listen to that little nudge.
mm,
Maybe it's not so little, maybe it's screaming at you at this point.
yeah, yeah,
Listen to that. That's your inner wisdom.
exactly.
And as scared as you might feel to go into where that's leading you, just know that it's not going to lead you astray. Um, the other thing is, I remember just like asking the universe, like, what? What, how? I don't know. I just know this has to stop. I don't know how. Be ready for when you truly open your heart and ask that question for help.
Mm,
Oh boy, is the universe going to flood you with so much, you're just going to go, whoa. Because it's not going to do, no one is going to do it for you. It's your journey, but there's so much support and help. And I am one that believes that the universe has us like this and loves us and wants the best for us. And when we are serious about what's next, how, help, oh boy, does it come flooding in, and just be open to it and accept it. Yeah.
yeah, so good. So good. Yeah, I really believe that if the person listening is sat thinking, well, I might be drinking a bit much, I do have these sort of nudges, just take that break and see what happens
See
and
what
just be
happens. Be
open to
curious.
it.
Yeah.
Be
Be
curious. And that's it. It's
curious.
about asking questions. It's about noticing the differences, noticing if you feel any better, noticing if your day's been a bit better because of it or something good, or you've noticed something like even a butterfly or a bird or something, the bird
Oh,
singing,
yes. Yes, yes, yes. I love that. Because we do, it's true what you're saying. We do things to feel a certain way. We
Mm,
won't do anything that's not going to make us feel good.
mm,
And so, yeah, this curiosity question about, I wonder how I could feel, you know? I wonder yeah, it's all about the questions. Good.
yeah,
You could always go back to the old you if that's better. But what happens
absolutely.
is you discover that it's really not. Yeah, I still thought that the
Mm,
moderation, then I decided I don't even want to moderate. I just don't, but guess what? That's fine if that's for you too, because I coach around that.
mm,
If that's for you, there's no judgment. Don't you love that too?
mm,
This is about how do you want to feel? How do you want to show up in the world? How do you want to be for your loved ones? How do you want them to remember, And there's no shame in whatever happened before. There's only now and then moving forward. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, amazing. And is there anything else that's happened in the past nearly 5 years that stands out to you and you can really put that on not drinking?
Anything else that stands out to me that what? What's up?
That you can say was because you've stopped drinking?
Oh, everything. I mean, because I'm not drinking, I've created a podcast. I help women stop drinking or at least question their relationship with alcohol. I've created these workshops to help people, not just with alcohol, but whatever's keeping them stuck. Let's work through it because life, just when we stop drinking, guess what? Life isn't perfect. And life doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful. We're still humans, we still live on earth, and there's still going to be sadness and grief and war and awful things. Ugh. But we can do so much more and be part of the collective of positive when we're present and we're not intoxicated. And yeah, what you said about there in Marrakesh, and I love that you're there, and I want to go there one day so bad. I was in Turkey a few years ago and just fell in love with that whole region of the world. I would love to go there too, where you are. Um, and that was something I found in Turkey very interesting, how alcohol, it was there, but it wasn't front and center of everything. And I found that very, very curious. In even in the airports, you go in our airports like bar, 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 bar,
Yeah.
everywhere, right? You walk in there, mostly wasn't that. I just little things like that notice. Anyway, so now that I don't drink, for weight just came off, by the way. Gee, I wonder why. How many calories are in 2 bottles of red wine every day? I was bloated. I was sluggish. I had no energy. I was, so all that positive in health and in my energy level, my skin, um, my sleep. I sleep like a baby. I'm up early every morning. It's crazy. Ready to go. Um, every now and then the thought like, oh yeah, you used to drink when you felt like this. So like if I'm upset or sad or something feels very crushing, and I tend to feel a lot. I've learned how to set boundaries for that, but just feeling everybody's stuff right on me. I had to learn, and you help, and then we'll talk about human design when I'm with you. But just learning more about yourself and how to navigate life in a positive, high energetic, high vibrational, and spreading as much light as possible to our world.
Yeah.
So I get to do all that because I don't drink alcohol.
Just a few things there. Yeah, it's amazing. It is literally like you have a superpower, isn't it? It really feels like you can go and just conquer the world when you stop drinking because you have this clarity, focus, energy, awareness, presence, as you say, which is just so important that you just don't even realize you're missing. You don't even realize you don't have it. You think you're on the top of your game. You think you're crushing life. You're highly functioning. You're doing an amazing job. You're
Right,
juggling all the things.
right,
The
right.
alcohol isn't hindering you in any way.
Yeah, you
It's
haven't
just
even
bizarre.
realized. Yeah, because maybe you are doing a lot of that and you're very successful and you're very great at all those. You don't even realize how much better it can be. That's the crazy part, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, because we know alcohol, just all the stuff, the anxiety, it actually is a depressant. It is a stimulant. It is a poison. It is a fake dopamine hit. It is all those things that,
Yeah.
yeah, again, we can go on and on because we are like, blah, alcohol, just there's what good? Even if I can't even find one good thing. But
I do struggle, but I think a lot of people think there are good things. And the other day I was speaking to someone and they were like, "But I just love the taste of champagne. I just don't want to give up the
um,
taste of," and it's what you think at the time is
yes,
what
and when you
drives you.
yes, and then when you become curious about, maybe how would I not have this wonderful champagne? It's like you start questioning, do I really? Yeah, you go through a whole process. But I used to think alcohol made me more creative way back when I was in art school. I thought you had to be, you know, it had to come from a dark place to create anything meaningful. I mean, where do these stories come from?
Yeah.
To
We're
be
highly
an artist
conditioned.
of any, and now I know what a lie that is because
Mhm.
it's just not, yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And the number of artists that have stopped drinking, I think I was reading Coldplay, Chris Martin hasn't drunk for so many years. I think it might be like 12 years or something. And
So many.
yeah,
I'm reading that too because,
mm,
people are just realizing that there really is nothing positive that's going to come from a habit of that.
mm,
And I think
mm.
sometimes even our younger generation, like the 20 somethings now and stuff, I feel like they're becoming more aware around
Oh,
alcohol. It's kind of
absolutely.
becoming trendy to do all so like, because I stopped drinking, now my husband, who'd never had a problem with alcohol, he's drinking all the NA beer and because we're in our 60s, so he also wants to feel good. And
Yeah,
when I read This Naked Mind and I started reading other books, Caroline, and I would share, and it was like, of course, it starts making sense.
yeah.
And then,
So,
not to mention the ripple effect of just people around you that see the difference and they're
mm,
watching quietly, and because you're not, telling them not to drink, of course. And, I, people I love still drink. We vacation together. We go out to dinner. The world drinks. Sorry, it's going to be part of life. But when we show up and we're just as fine not drinking, you don't know how many people, friends that have said, thank you. And how did you, they want to know, how did I? And it's great to be able to talk about it and share on these. That's why I love the podcast too. It's really a great platform to talk about this, isn't it, Dubé? Uh,
absolutely.
as I started out so secretive, I didn't want anyone to know I was taking a little break, to now just, this is what I do. Talk about a turnaround complete.
It's so true. But I think when you've been through it and you come out the other side, one,
You're
you're so grateful that you've actually seen the light. And then two, you just want to share it with everyone. You don't,
I
it's the best
do.
kept secret. And actually, when you know there's something that can completely change someone's life for the better, of course you're going to want to share that with
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for being on. I've really enjoyed our conversation. And is there any last bit of wisdom you want to share? And how can people find you?
Well, I think the wisdom part, like I said earlier, if in your quiet moments, if there is the nudge or the voice just saying to you, take that step, reach out, just, even if you have no clue, there's resources here. Yeah, there's hope. I love giving people hope. Of course, you can change. Of course, you can live the life you want to live. And you can find me in two places very simply on Instagram at Curious on Life is my handle. Um, my website is my full name, Rebecca Guevara Wingler.com. And there's links there for the art workshops and also the Unfold program to get on the wait list. And then just finished a VIP day, which was fun. I don't know when I'll do a next one, but there's a little bit of information on that too for alcohol-free travel and giving people a chance to know what that's like too. So that was a fun experience for me to have that one-on-one.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about Dijon, did
Well,
we?
we,
Oh, the
that'll be
time's
enough.
gone. We'll have to get you back on and you can talk about your VIP experience because I'm doing a similar one. I'm doing a VIP experience in Marrakesh. And so in
How
September or in
fun.
October, it's one-to-one. If people want to come to Marrakesh and do, it's effectively 2 and a bit days. So
Yeah, I think
the
that's
first,
perfect. Yeah.
yeah, the first night is an evening where we'll have a dinner, we'll meet, you will obviously arrive, you get your Airbnb as part of the package, and then the first day we do 6 hours of coaching. So I'm all
Ooh,
over everything. We'll have a nice nourishing lunch in between and in the evening, and then on the second full day, we will be doing a walking coaching, going on
that's
sightseeing tours, and I'm going to take them around Marrakesh. So
Oh,
if
the
anyone's
ancient.
interested in that as well, but I love the fact that we're both doing these VIP
Yes,
experiences.
that is so cool. And I can't wait. We'll talk more about that also next
Yeah,
week.
do that. Yeah,
Can't get enough of
absolutely.
you.
Oh, bless you. Well, I'm looking forward to being on your podcast as well. And so, with all my episodes, I love to end with this question. What does thriving, I think you've spoken a lot about it anyway, but in a sentence maybe, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you, Rebecca?
I guess just that thriving, that you are living your life in a way that feels purposeful and um, that you are putting out hope for people. And not only, it's not just about thriving for others, but then also for yourself to really ask yourself, why am I here? I believe we all have our unique gifts, right? So there's a reason you're here. And when alcohol, you can remove that numbing out of the way, all of that information starts to become much more clear, and you're able to thrive. And I would feel that I'm thriving because I've opened up that portal. I've gotten rid of the numbing agent, which was alcohol, and now I am an open vessel for how I can be used and thrive.
Such a beautiful answer. Thank you for
Thank
sharing.
you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to be on your podcast as well, but thank
I
you
can't either.
so much for being a guest on the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. You are just a beautiful soul, and I'm so glad that our paths have crossed and we've been able to spend so much time together this year on the mastermind that we've been on. And so
Yes,
thank
and
you
fun.
so
Thank
much.
you. It's been such a
Yeah.
pleasure. Thank you, Dupe.
We'll speak soon. Take care. Well, thank you, Rebecca. And if you would like to find out more about her, head to @CuriousOnLife and head to her website. All the details are in the show notes. Hope you found that interesting and inspiring. And I really want to encourage you, if you have been listening to the podcast for a while and thinking, oh, this is something I want to do, I want to take a break, then just take that break. I have a 21-day email challenge. It's heading into alcohol-free August. So I always love talking about alcohol-free August. It's not really a thing, but it's the thing that I like talking about. And if you want to take a break over August, then I know it's not the normal time to do it, but when is a good time? They say the time to plant a tree was 50 years ago, but the next best time is now. So why not take that break? And you can do that with my 21-day email challenge. I'll put the details in the show notes for you for that. But it's daily inspiration, motivation, some resources that you can use, and just a really practical way to keep you on track for 21 days. And I've had some really good feedback on that. So if that's something you want to do, I will put the details below. And it's a very, very reasonable price to do that. So go and grab yours and start today. And as I mentioned, I have my VIP experience, Marrakesh Magic, which is happening in October and September this year. And so if you would like to have 2 and a bit days, 2 nights away in Marrakesh with me, one-to-one, then I would love you to join. It's going to be all tailored around you. We'll meet just before we head out there. So I'm really clear on the goal you want to achieve and what you want to release or maybe work on while we're together. We have a full day of coaching, and then we will have, as I said, a walking coaching with sightseeing, and we'll pick up on the things we would have discussed the day before. And hopefully just have lots of fun and some really nourishing, beautiful Moroccan dishes. And you'll get to experience the culture of Marrakesh. So get in touch if that's something that you're interested in. Again, I'll put that in the show notes. And thank you for listening to this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe so you get alerted every time I drop a new episode. I'd love it if you could rate, review, and share this episode. Feel free to tag me on Instagram @Thrive Alcohol Free and follow me for daily tips.
if you would like to work with me, I offer one-to-one coaching sessions and have my signature Thrive Alcohol Free Society group coaching program. If you're not yet ready for coaching, I also have a self-paced online course, which is a companion to my book, A Cocktail of Clarity. All the links are in the show notes. I will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful week. Take care.